So you flick to your glaze book and you pick which one you want to make. You got all the raw materials in, so you mix up your glaze. Once it's all mixed though, how do you know what the silica, alumina and flux levels are? If only there's a way to find out. So last week we spoke a little bit about how I organise recipes, and one of the main areas I keep all my recipes is glazy.org, and today we're going to set up a little account and I'm going to show you how to import your glaze recipes, and then we're going to go a little bit more into the chemistry and look at what the information Glazy gives you and how we can work out what kind of glaze it's going to be. Our main focus on this is to create a durable sort of stable glaze. There's lots of glaze recipes out there which are really beautiful glazes, really interesting glazes, but they may not be good for functional wear. So we're keeping it quite simple at the moment. We're just creating a really good, durable, stable glaze for tableware and things like that. So I've already inputted a recipe into Glazy so we can have a little look at that. But yeah, we'll go through putting your own glaze recipes in there, and you know what to look for, what levels. We'll be looking at the silica and alumina levels, and we'll also be looking at the fluxes as well. And then we can start by looking at the information that Glazy gives us. We can start working out whether that's going to be a really good stable glaze. So we're going to be keeping it simple as always. So yeah, let's go and get started with Glazy. So the first thing to do is head over to glazy.org and click on join, and this will create a new account for you. Add all your details and don't forget to check your confirmation email. So once you've joined, simply go to login and add your details, and it'll take you straight to your home page. Once you're there, if you look to the top, you'll see My Studio. If you click on that, that's where all your recipes will be saved. At the moment I've just got one recipe, which is a cone 10 base recipe. Here you'll see on the right all your recipes, and on the left this is a Stull chart which I'll talk to you about later. If you click on the actual recipe, it comes up with all the details about the actual ingredients I've added. So here you'll see for cone 10 base 40 30 20 10 I've got 40% feldspar, 30% silica, 20% whiting and 10% EPK with the additions of bentonite. And if you look below, it gives you all the details of your flux, silica and alumina levels. And what we'll do next is we'll make a new recipe, which will be the cone 6 base recipe, and then we can go through all the details regarding the flux, silica and alumina levels. So if you head back to the top and click on My Studio, and we'll go back to where we were before, and at the top again you'll see create. If you hit that, we'll start a new recipe. Now for this demo I'll be doing a cone 6 base recipe, but you can choose whatever recipe you want really. So first of all at the top, type in the name of the recipe and we'll start inputting each raw material. For starters, we'll go with feldspar at 20%. And once you start inputting the first few letters, you'll see it automatically pop up in a list. The next ingredient is flint. Now if you did type in flint or quartz, it'll come up as just silica. As mentioned in videos before, silica is basically flint or quartz. So just continue with the list now. The next is whiting, again at 20%. And then we've got EPK at 20%. Finally, arthrit at 20%. This base recipe now adds up to 100%, so we'll save it out. So you're now back in the studio, but what I've noticed, I want to change the name here. I'm not quite happy with it, so if you go and hit the little edit button, you can actually rename the name of the recipe at the top. I'm going to add here 20 times 5, that just gives me a bit more detail about the recipe, and at the bottom I'll save it out again. So the base recipe always adds up to 100%. And the next stage now is to add additions, and the additions are normally a small percentage based on the actual base recipe of 100%. So things like tin oxide, bentonite, copper oxide, usually between 1 and 5% are added to the base recipe. So to add the addition, go back to your My Studio, make sure you're looking at the right recipe and hit the little calculator button. Then when this opens up, go to the calculator button again and tap it. This will take you straight back to where you were before. Now on the right hand side you'll see add, meaning addition. If you select that, and now all you need to do is just add the bentonite or whatever addition you want to add. Here I'm going to add 2% bentonite. Now you'll see the total now goes to 102. If you save out the recipe at the bottom, so this will update everything for you now. So when you select the recipe, it will separate the base and then the addition, which is the bentonite. So you'll see the base is 100% and then the bentonite is 102%. So if you scroll down a bit to the bottom, you're going to see more information about the actual glaze recipe. So we're going to keep it quite simple for now, and we're going to just focus on a few areas. Firstly, we're going to look at this here, and this is your ratio of alkaline earths and alkaline metals. The blue one is your alkaline earth and the red one is your alkaline metal. There's usually more alkaline earth than there is alkaline metal. So this is quite a good ratio of alkaline earth and alkaline metals. So normally alkaline earths you want roughly about 0.6 to 0.8, and your alkaline metals you want to try and keep that between 0.2 and 0.4 for a stable glaze. So looking at this, what I really understand is there's a lot of potassium coming in here as an alkaline metal, and there's a lot of calcium coming here from alkaline earth, and there's a very small amount of sodium here. The magnesium is a real trace amount, so it's not worth worrying about that. Further down the bottom you can actually see, so let's have a little look at the potassium here. You can see that most of the potassium is coming in from the feldspar, and there's a very small amount coming in from the kaolin. Another little look at this, we can look at the calcium levels here. Very small coming in from the kaolin. And if you come down here, you see some coming in from the frit, but most of the calcium's coming in from the whiting. So that's the fluxes over and done with. The next section is your stabilizers and your glass formers, and this is quite important. So we're going to look at this. So first of all, the stabilizers, which is your alumina, and this is the number we're getting, 0.46 alumina. The next one is your glass former, and the glass former is reading as 2.94 silica. So this gives us all the information we need of the amount of alumina and the amount of silica. But to look at this as a ratio, to make things really simple, it's giving you this number here, which is a silica and alumina ratio. So it's basically saying for every 1 mole of stabilizer, there's going to be 6.45 moles of your glass former. So it kind of normalizes it again. I won't go into moles at the moment, but just think of it as a ratio. So for every 1 part of alumina, there's 6.45 parts of silica. So in a small amount of information here, it's given us our flux ratio, which is normalized to 1. And then it gives us our silica and alumina ratio, which is, so every 1 part or 1 mole of alumina, there's 6.45 parts of silica. So again, if we look down the bottom, we'll see silica and alumina, and then we can look through all the ingredients and look exactly what silica and what alumina is being pulled in. So as mentioned before, Glazy is quite clever, and it keeps everything based on 1 mole of your fluxes, your alkaline earth and alkaline metals. So for every 1 mole of flux, it's giving you the amount of silica and the amount of alumina. And then you've got your ratio of silica and alumina together. So if the silica ratio is around about 6 to 8 parts per 1 part of alumina, it's a lot of silica, which means it's going to be quite a glossy glaze. If it's lower, so it's down to say 4 to 5, it means there's less silica to the amount of alumina, and the glaze is going to get a little bit more stiff because there's more alumina. So the higher that ratio is, if you're pushing it 6, 7, 8 to 1 part of alumina, it means there's a lot of silica and it's going to be glossy. If that number's lower, there's less silica and it's going to be more of a dry sort of matte glaze. You can't just drop the silica though, and it may become too dry and underfired, so you've got to start adding a little bit more flux. You're going to start creating these really nice true mattes. If you just drop the silica and you've got too much alumina, it's going to be a very dry, unstable matte. Okay, now for the final section, we're going to look at the Stull chart. I know it's been a lot of information to take in so far, but this is the final section now. And the Stull chart is basically a kind of visual representation of what your glaze's surface is going to look like. So whether it's going to be a glossy glaze, whether it's going to be a matte glaze, semi-matte, or if you've gone off the scale a little bit with your recipe, it's going to tell you whether it's going to be undefined, which is really good. It's a really simple representation of what your glaze surface is going to be. If you've liked this video so far, please like. It really helps get these videos out there. And if you haven't subscribed yet, you can below. Got loads of other videos on more glazing techniques and also some throw-in and all sorts of pottery stuff. So if you like all that, please subscribe. Okay, let's get back to the Stull chart. So if you click on calculator here, this gives you your Stull chart. You might have to enlarge it a little bit by pressing this button here. And this gives you the silica, which goes from 1 to 7 from left to right at the bottom, and then it gives your alumina levels from 0.1 to 1 on the left hand side going up. And this is the point at which our glaze is at. So you can see here the name of the glaze, and it reads 2.94 silica and 0.46 alumina. This centre bit is a very durable and it's a very glossy glaze. You can start to push the alumina and it'll start to push the dot over towards the semi-matte area, which is here. And the more you push it, the more you go into a very matte area, it's like kind of dry matte, and then you go into the undefined area if you just push the alumina too much. Likewise over here, you push the silica too much and it's just going to go undefined because there's just not enough flux to melt it. So this is it. These areas here are what you want to keep out of. If you want to go for like a matte glaze, you're going to be going around about this area here. If you want to keep it glossy and stable, you're going to keep it around this area here. So next we're going to talk about these different zones from glossy to semi-matte to matte. So here it is, we've got the centre line, which is the bright, which means glossy, and then as you move out you've got your semi-matte, matte and unfused, which is basically undefined, and then too much silica, bottom right, purple, is going to be undefined. So you're aiming for that central line for a glossy, durable glaze. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed that. I know it's been a lot of information, but what you can do now is start to bring in some recipes you like. Maybe you got some recipes written down in your notebooks, or you got some good recipe books yourself. So start bringing those recipes in and have a little look at the ratio of silica and alumina. In your book, it might say it's a glossy glaze, it might say it's a matte glaze. Maybe bring them in and start to look at what fluxes you're using and look at the silica and alumina levels. And that should be enough to sort of show the difference between a matte glaze and a glossy glaze. So it'll be a good bit of homework to just start to play around with it. Once you start inputting the recipe into your Stull chart, you can start maybe predicting what the glaze is going to look like, and it gives you a lot of information which will give you a good idea what the glaze is going to look like. So maybe pick out 3 of your favourite recipes and add them in there, and have a little look at the information. And once you do it a few times, you'll start getting your head around it a bit more and it gets more fascinating. So as mentioned before as well, I've been writing this software which I'm testing at the moment. So this software is designed to do line blends between 2 different bases. You can take that and make a batch glaze and it will calculate how much raw materials you need to make a certain volume of glaze. There's also a section on it for doing tracks or blending as well. So we can start inputting 3 bases with maybe a few different additions, and you can start blending them all together, and then you can start picking which particular glaze you like. And again, if there's one of the glaze tests you particularly like, you can actually make and generate a larger batch from that in the software as well. So as I said, I'm just testing at the moment, and hopefully I'll get it sorted and I'll talk to you about it very soon. But until then, good luck with your recipes. Do feel free to ask any questions below if you've got any. Please like if you can. Again, I know I keep saying it, but it really helps the channel. And yeah, good luck with it all. I know it's a lot to take on, but again, just keep at it and you'll start getting your head around it. So good luck. I'll see you soon.